Okay, we're going to get started, and I'm sorry I sent people out to the pretzels and they were all gone, so now we know they're popular. So there is soda left, there's no pretzels left. So welcome to tonight's Community-Based Learning Talk. This is the second in our spring series, and we're really excited about what we have in store. My name is Julie Schumacher-Cohen, and I am the Assistant Vice President for Community Engagement and Government Affairs here at the university. I also chair the Community-Based Learning Board. And tonight's event is a collaboration of the Office of Community-Based Learning, the Office of Community Relations, and the Peniska College of Professional Studies. I know many of you are here partly because, or mostly because of your learning opportunity through the CBL PCPS Tapestry program. So welcome to many students who are here as part of that or part of another CBL class, and also to faculty and staff and members of the Scranton community. And we will have one more CBL talk this semester that will be on April 18th, Root Causes of Homelessness and Poverty in Northeastern PA, with Krista Murray and Jessica Wallow. So that's another one to be aware of. And at the end of the program, I'll remind you about a couple of events that we had that were listed out at the table. So tonight we have two parts to our program. We're going to have two videos to get us started that are going to give you an overview and introduction to the Scranton Stories project. And I'll say a little bit more about that. And then we're going to have a chance to hear directly from someone that you're going to meet in the video, which is Jenny Gonzalez. She's a part of the Scranton Stories project in terms of being an interviewee herself. She was also part of the steering committee, and we're going to hear more about the work that she does with Hispanic and Latinx communities in Scranton. So first, a little bit of background on the Scranton Stories project. So over the past 2 years, the university and the Scranton community and many different partners have come together to explore different themes of history, identity, community, belonging through this project called Scranton Story, Our Nation's Story. I've had the pleasure to be the project director of that, and we were funded by a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities. So it was a big deal for the university, and it's been going on for about 2 years. We had a lot of different humanities-based programs, and we really sought to share a multifaceted story of Scranton. Sometimes you hear of Scranton, and just give me a shout out. What do you think of? What's something that comes to mind when you hear the city of Scranton? What's something obvious? The office, yes. The office. So other things like, there's famous people who are from here. We have a president from here. So there's lots of ways that people know about Scranton, but they're not always the most authentic things. We love the office, but it actually was not recorded here. So we really wanted to talk about Scranton also in terms of the diversity that's in Scranton, which sometimes does not get as highlighted as it should be. So the entire project, we brought together themes about indigenous heritage. We did honor the industrial history and the economic history of the city, the religious tapestry of Scranton, immigration, past and present, and we're going to be talking tonight about the present immigration to the city. Black history and experience was also something that we looked at, and then weaving in themes of democracy and civic engagement, really how we can be a part of improving this city and ultimately improving the nation. So that's what the project has been about. What we're going to look at tonight was the culmination of the project, which was 25 oral histories of all different Scrantonians, different backgrounds, different perspectives, coming together through these 25 video interviewees of a total of 33 local residents. So you're not assigned to watch all 33 or all 25, but I would encourage you, tonight you're going to get a chance to watch the trailer, which gives you an overview of the project and a little bit about the themes that we are bringing out through the oral histories. And then we're going to watch the interview that Jenny and her mom, Anna, did that really helps us to think about these themes of immigration and diversity. Last month, we had an event to screen all of the Black voices included in the interviews to really bring a focus to that, for instance, during Black History Month. So all the videos have different themes and topics, things around, again, economic struggles, race, immigration, discrimination and inclusion, re-entry and recovery, arts and culture, education, faith, civic engagement, and more. So very excited to share these with you. The first trailer is for about 5 minutes. So that will give you a chance to very briefly kind of meet all 33 of the folks that were interviewed. And every interview that the larger ones that you'll get to see one of tonight, the beginning is usually a little bit of their Scranton story, abbreviated because you can't fit that into 5 or 6 minutes. And then their hopes for the city of Scranton, and then their hopes for the nation. Because the theme of the project, again, was thinking about what can we do here in Scranton to improve our community, and what can we also do collectively to improve the country as we think ahead to the 250th anniversary of the United States that's coming up in 2026. So that's just a kind of quick overview of the project that you're going to get introduced to now. And then after that, we're going to have a chance to chat with Jenny again about her experience and about the work that she does in the city of Scranton. And we will do all that, and you'll be done right around 7 o'clock. So I'm going to first play for you this trailer, and then I will introduce to you the oral history of Jenny and Anna.
Stories of love and loves that I lost. I've got stories of bridges I've burned and I've crossed.
Everyone speaks about the uniqueness of the friendships in Scranton.
There are a lot of philosophers in this valley. There really are.
It's definitely becoming more of a melting pot.
And they're looking for jobs and to settle their young family, like they're coming to Scranton.
Entonces, probemos a ver si es que hay un lugar mejor para criar a nuestra hija.
This country is almost like my country, so if I move here, maybe my family, they will become sick and they become happy.
We live in a rich, culturally rich part of the world. There's what has been created here it's really important.
I have never experienced anything in my life that compares to Scranton politics.
People live hard lives, and especially here.
I see Scranton as being one of the breeding grounds for the healing.
This just seemed like a second chance town.
I always said the reason why I live in Scranton is the people. It's not the weather, it's not the beautiful roads, it's the people.
I was born in Scranton, grew up in Scranton, went to Scranton High School, proud graduate of West Scranton, and continue to live in West Scranton.
Soy de Scranton, aunque tengo como mi nacionalidad muy arraigada.
And he said, Nana, you talk about Wales an awful lot. I said, because I want you to remember.
I cannot forget where I came from. To be a human is to remember.
At times, people make me feel like I don't belong. And when they kind of give me that feeling, I'm like, oh my God. My family's been here since the 1800s, maybe longer than their family.
I would love to see the city be more cognizant about how people with disabilities add to the conversation, no matter what the disability is.
I would hope that our young people get to know more about the cultures.
So everybody comes from other countries, and I hope that we can accept each other and try to be together and help.
We as a city still need to step up a bit more and helping our community realize that you are safe here and you deserve to be safe.
When things disappoint me about Scranton, I try to think, what can I do? What can I do?
Everyone knows and respects the United States because said the United States, not divided state.
That's my dream, that some of these divisions might begin to break down.
And I see what people are doing to people who are gay or have a different color, different skin color, and it worries me.
I don't ever see racism truly ever going away, but my hope for the future is that there's more inclusion.
To be more at peace with people, with all the violence going on lately. I feel like we need to have more peace in this.
Coming here and getting a citizenship and being called an American, it's a big deal.
That dream still exists. It exists in the eyes of the kids who sit in front of me. There's no doubt in my mind that that's the reason their families brought them here.
And I'm saying, what is your excuse? You can speak, you can sing, you can do whatever you want to do. What have you done lately? That's where I'm coming from.
I don't care who you vote for. Just go vote. The more people that vote is what makes democracy work.
How much are you contributing to making this union much more perfect? are you voting? What are you doing? What are your contributions in preserving this democracy?
En las noticias ves muchas, ¿verdad?, cosas que dividen a las comunidades por razones políticas, ideologías, ¿verdad? Pero al fin y al cabo, la única raza en sí que existe es la humanidad.
Okay, so that gave you an overview, and you met all 33 individuals. Now we're going to take a deeper dive, and we're going to watch the story of Jenny and Anna. So this is about 9 minutes.
Bueno, yo aquí a Scranton vine especialmente por el trabajo. Eso fue lo que nos hizo venir. Y era porque un amigo de mi esposo estaba acá y él era el que nos decía siempre, vengan para acá, que aquí está mejor, el trabajo, está muy tranquilo, la ciudad y todo. Y nosotros como yo tenía mi hija pequeña, entonces digo, bueno, probemos a ver si es que hay un lugar mejor para criar a nuestra hija, porque vivíamos en New York y dije, no quiero que mi hija crezca en ese lugar. Y vine a New York Pizza, aquí al mall que estaba recién abierto. Entonces, y le dije, tenía un mes que lo habían abierto. Le dije, sí voy. Y ese trabajo es el que más me encantó de acá. Y por ese trabajo me quedé yo aquí en Scranton. Porque al venir de New York, nos paró la policía y nos quitó todo. Y nos demoró 6 semanas para poderlo recuperar. Sí, y así estuvimos. Entonces, sí, después nos involucramos en la cosa que dónde está la iglesia y todo eso, empezamos a ir y ahí conocimos a una señora que se llamaba Wendy. Creo que ella trabajaba para una organización que se dedicaba a investigar a dónde llegaban los latinos. Entonces, luego vino sobrino de mi esposo, y ya pues íbamos sintiéndonos como más confortables de quedarnos acá. Pues a ellos también les encantó el lugar y también terminaron quedándose. Y ahora el muchacho el sobrino de él hasta dueño del restaurante es hoy. Sí, entonces sí, creo que todos estamos felices de vivir aquí en Scranton.
Llegamos a Scranton porque me trajeron. Me cuentan que a mí no me gustaba aquí porque no habían caricaturas en español y yo solo hablaba español, no hablaba inglés. Entonces yo lloraba que nos fuéramos para Nueva York. Me fui a estudiar. Cuando terminé la universidad, mi ideología era que yo me iba a ir de esta área porque yo decía, yo tengo sueños grandes, quiero ir a explorar otras ciudades. Me quedé porque empecé a trabajar para una agencia que se llama Community Justice Project. Y eso fue que me abrió los ojos a ver algunos de los problemas sociales que existían en nuestra comunidad y que yo decía, si esto impacta a estas personas, a estas familias, esto impacta a otras personas cercanas a mi trabajo. Yo empecé como a sentir una conexión más profunda y como una obligación moral prácticamente en quedarme y decir, yo soy bilingüe, he tenido la oportunidad de estudiar, he tenido la oportunidad de conocer a nuevas personas y siento que puede ser útil trabajar en esta comunidad, pero tranquilo. Y eso es lo que yo quería para mi hija ya cuando yo la tuve. Entonces hubo una temporada que dije, sí, me voy a ir, pero dije, por mi hija, mientras ella esté pequeña y para que tenga acceso a oportunidades educacionales, pero también a ese apoyo de tu familia, tener cerca a la familia por cualquier razón, ¿verdad? O emergencia, decidí quedarme aquí.
Las dificultades que nosotros tuvimos quizás al principio, bueno, especialmente hablando de mí, entonces fue el idioma. Y al no conocer tampoco, se me dificultaba como llevar a mi hija a un médico buscar un trabajo yo misma en otro lugar, así. Me sentía yo que era imposible que yo iba a poder sobrevivir acá.
Primero, desde que entré a la escuela aquí, te catalogan como extranjero. Me acuerdo en esos años, en los 90s, mi prima Xochitl y yo fuimos las primeras estudiantes en Audubon Elementary School, las primeras hispanas. Inmediatamente los profesores, las maestras, los directores pensaban que éramos extranjeros. Entonces siempre nos decían, oh, ¿de qué país eres? Porque físicamente también me veía diferente a comparación de la mayoría de los estudiantes. Y ya cuando yo hablaba un poquito más de inglés, yo decía, yo soy de Nueva York, o yo estoy creciendo acá. O sea, nunca sabía yo cómo responder a esa pregunta. Entonces creo que durante mi niñez ese fue como una de las barreras más grandes, como tratar de averiguar todo solo, y más que era la mayor, entonces fui la primera como que tuve que averiguar las cosas yo solita. Quizás barreras que no me impactaron a mí directamente, o a lo mejor sí, pero es más como indirectamente, fue el que mis papás no hablaban inglés, que yo era la que tenía que interpretarles, traducirles. Entonces yo tomaba un rol como de adulto a una edad muy pequeña, porque si ellos no entendían y no había otro adulto que les explicara, experimentamos un poco racismo.
Sí.
Dices tú, yo esto no me acuerdo, pero me acuerdo que dijiste que cuando recién nos llegamos y fuimos a este mall, al Steamtown,
sí,
que la gente paraba y se nos
miraban su cabeza y se paraban a mirarnos.
De pie a cabeza.
Sí.
Dije que por eso era una de las razones que ella se quería ir, porque ella decía se sentía incómoda.
Sí. Limpiando el mall, a mí me tocó muchas veces que yo limpiaba las ventanas rápido en la mañana tempranito, para cuando abrieran el mall, ya los señores que vienen a caminar allí, a hacer ejercicio, se nos quedaban mirando y nos decían así con groserías, váyanse para su país, no lo queremos acá, no les vamos a permitir que se vengan a invadirnos aquí.
Saber que mi mamá no tenía estatus migratorio. Entonces yo, que era la grande, tenía conocimiento de que mi mamá no tiene... puede haber algo que puede pasar que nos separe, como dije anterior, es por eso que me he sentido yo como... Yo puedo formar parte de una comunidad que está tratando de hacer cambios positivos, especialmente porque la comunidad va cambiando rápidamente.
Estábamos ahí trabajando y yo y otra persona más, y llegó la migración y nos arrestó. Entonces, pues, era una preocupación, ¿y ahora qué hicimos? Entonces, y todos asustados, ¿qué es esto? ¿Qué hicieron? Y nosotros, bueno, le dijeron, no tienen documentos, no tienen permiso para estar aquí, ni mucho menos para trabajar. Entonces, y ya nos mandaron, tomaron declaraciones y toda la cosa, y huellas y todo. Entonces y nos dijeron, no pueden trabajar, se tienen que ir para su casa. Y si viene inmigración y me deporta, ¿qué voy a hacer con mi hija? ¿Y regresarme o qué hago? ¿O me voy del Estado? Entonces, los servicios católicos, y allá donde empecé a tramitar mis documentos. Pero digo, no estuvo mal porque gracias al arresto aquí en Scranton pude tramitar mis documentos, y ahora gracias a Dios también me pude hacer ciudadana también.
Siento que por muchos años siempre, y es la historia, ¿verdad? Que cuando llegan nuevos grupos, ¿verdad? Como que entre ellos se hallan. Pero espero que en los próximos 10, 15, 20 años estas comunidades empiecen como a compartir más, a colaborar más, para que haya más unidad, y con esa unidad puedes lograr, ¿verdad? Más cambios para tu comunidad. El ser americano es una oportunidad, un privilegio. Creo que todavía existe en diferentes formas ese sueño americano que mucha gente busca. En las noticias ves muchas, ¿verdad?, cosas que dividen a las comunidades por razones políticas, ideologías, ¿verdad? Pero al fin y al cabo, la única raza en sí que existe es la humanidad.
A life's made up story. Many yet one. Together they will shape.
Put it off right in the middle of the song. A round of applause. They are welcomed. That is just a snippet of, as Julie mentioned, a couple of the videos from this wonderful project, which we'd be happy to share more information about after the event. But my name is Daisy Corretto, Assistant Director of Community and Civic Engagement, and it is my absolute privilege to introduce our speaker this evening, Jenny Gonzalez. Jenny Gonzalez is a licensed social worker who works at Marywood University as the S.T.A.R.S Students Together Achieving Remarkable Success Program Director. S.T.A.R.S is an after-school program that offers Latinx youth in the Scranton area the opportunity to explore their long-term career goals through academic assistance and exposure to diverse post-secondary educational paths, trades, and careers. Jenny has been working with and advocating for the civil and immigrants' rights of the growing immigrant and refugee population in NEPA for almost a decade through her work at the Community Justice Project. This has included advocating for immigrants' access to public benefits, subsidized housing, equitable education, language access, immigration representation, and much more. And it's a much more special occasion as well because joining her tonight is her daughter, who she referenced in the video. Please join me in welcoming Jenny Gonzalez.
Okay, so we're going to have a little discussion, the three of us, so, up here, and then we're going to invite you to ask your questions as well. So we're going to kind of start off here. Let's put you in the middle. How's that? Okay. So you get to see the star here.
Good
and I
evening,
always
everyone.
like, yes. I'm not someone who likes to watch myself on screen, so I'm always just so in awe that the folks that have participated in the Scranton Story project have been willing, first of all, to share your story because this is a story that has a lot of components to it and a lot of challenges and a lot of vulnerability. So first of all, thank you to you and your mom and your family. But we wanted to start off by just telling us a little bit about what it was like to be an interviewee in the Scranton Stories project and anything you want to maybe fill in from where the interview stopped or things that we didn't get to cover in the 9 minutes.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction and thank you very much for this project. I always tell you that when I see you that this has been a very important and impactful project for me because first of all, it was very exciting to be an interviewee because I thought it was the first time that anybody really asked us and my family to share our story of how Scranton has impacted our family. I was very nervous, more so for my mom because she wasn't sure what to expect. She doesn't speak English. She didn't know she felt like there were right or wrong answers, and I was just telling her, just go with the flow, be very authentic, share what you feel comfortable sharing. And in her stories, you know, growing up, I would always hear her tell me about a lot of the good and the not so good reasons of why she ended up in this region in northeastern Pennsylvania. So I wasn't sure how ready she was to fully share that with the world. And the other thing that really happened for me at a personal level is that it really allowed me to engage in self-reflection. For such a long time, I think I talk about it there a little bit, I just wanted to leave this area like a lot of young people, you know, who grow up in this area say, I want to leave Scranton. And a lot of the reasons because of that was I felt like I had identity crisis at such a young age. But really this interview allowed me to self-reflect and think about all the good that this region provided to my family. And that this area was something that was an area that really provided a sense of hope and stability and educational and economic opportunities for my family, which is something that they did not find in other parts of the United States. So there was a reason that they ended up here, and it was really for economic opportunities. And despite the challenges, they decided to stay. And I mean, the challenges were quite drastic, especially in the 90s, because there weren't many people that looked like us when we moved here in the 90s. And I think that once I finished this interview and like weeks later, I remember thinking and rewatching and actually watching all the interviews. It was for the first time in all the time that I've been here that I felt like, wow, this is home. Because for such a long time, I felt like an outsider because our family isn't from Scranton. We don't have connections to Scranton or to other Scranton like families that were here for generations. But I also didn't feel like New York was home because we left when I was so young. And yes, family stayed there, but I didn't feel really connected to New York either. And I also didn't feel connected as strongly to my parents' native countries, which is El Salvador and Mexico, because although I would travel and visit family, even family over there would make you feel like an outsider because you were too Americanized. You know, you look like us, but you don't sound like us. You know, you speak Spanish a little bit funny or different. So for such a long time during my childhood, I felt, you know, like this identity crisis that I always talk about. And really thanks to this project and participating in this project and listening to the diverse and unique experiences and stories that have happened here in Scranton, I felt like, wow, this is really great. I feel finally like a connection to this place and feeling like this is home. And then I think you had a question about anything else.
Daisy, sorry, we're like.
I'm sorry, and I'm trying not to give you my.
We had a question about how do you see the project contributing to greater support for immigration and diversity in Northeastern PA, and what gaps has it filled and what gaps remain? And so again, for students who might be new to Scranton, you know, the typical or like the stories that really get highlighted in I joked about The Office, but the industrial history, the economic draw that Scranton was in the early 1900s because it was a coal mining town, and all the European immigration that came here, including this weekend, we'll celebrate the Irish American community, and that's all wonderful, but that's not the whole story of Scranton. And so focusing on underrepresented stories was one of the things that we wanted to do in the project, but bring all these stories together. So I wanted Jenny to reflect on a little bit of, you know, what have we been able to do with the project in terms of that, but maybe there's also gaps that we still have to fill that, you know, other projects can help to do.
So before I answer that question, I did just want to give a little bit of context about my mother's story, since she was one of the interviewees, and that kind of goes into your question eventually. If I go off, let me know. But so my mom is originally from El Salvador, and she left El Salvador in the 80s because of a 12-year civil war, and when she left El Salvador, she left a 6-year-old son, so my older brother, under the care of my grandfather, because she couldn't afford to migrate herself to this country and to bring my brother along. During the years that she was here, she was undocumented for 15 years in the United States, and she lived in different parts of the country before she finally ended up here in the 90s with myself and my father. And it took her 15 years to adjust her immigration status to finally have a green card. And it took her 25 years to become a US citizen. And all of this happened here in the city of Scranton because of a wonderful organization that has been here for a very long time, Catholic Social Services. And she was able to become a US citizen because of their help. And she was also finally, after 12 years, able to reunite with my eldest brother here in Scranton. So this was really a full circle for our family, where despite the many challenges that we experienced, we had a lot of really amazing and great celebratory moments. But you have to think that you know, a lot of the immigrants that are moving here are leaving people behind in other parts of the country or in other parts of the world. And so when my mom finally reunited with my brother, he was an adult. So she left a 6-year-old and she had to re-meet an adult. And it was the first time that we were introduced to this brother that we just knew about through, you know, writing letters in the 90s. We weren't FaceTiming or texting or, you know, just traditional phone calls. So it was really the first, and we just knew each other from pictures. But going to your question about how this project highlights diversity, I think that this project, for the first time, I think, locally gave a platform for so many undertold, untold, or overshadowed stories. One of the stories of a colleague that I went to graduate school really just taught me so much about the local Black history. And it's something that just stays in my mind because growing up here, we weren't taught that in public education. I'm pretty sure it's not really taught in private education either. But we have this misconception that that the Black community isn't from here, that they're coming from, I don't know, other larger cities. But no, there is a local history of how the Underground Railroad ended up in northeastern Pennsylvania, and there were descendants of people that were formerly enslaved that were here, and maybe they eventually left, but that there are Black Scrantonians. So I think that in seeing these interviews and really promoting this project out into the community, there are a lot of people that will watch this and say, oh wow, I relate to that story. I feel connected. It provides more of an inclusive, welcoming environment, not only for those of us who have lived here for a while, but and whose stories have been overshadowed or untold, but also for people that can potentially see this region as their home and who want to establish roots like my family did, because they saw a future here. So I think that, again, I'm beyond grateful for projects like this to have happened, and my hope is that this is not just a one-time thing, because our local history, our local heritage, our local culture is changing as the demographics is changing. So being able to collaboratively work with different educational institutions and community members to continue highlighting and celebrating diverse communities is a very important aspect, because I think it's also like promoting our region, that we are a very multicultural region, and that it's not, whatever people stereotypically think of Scranton, that there's, more to that story.
To ask a couple questions.
Thank you for sharing that self-reflection and your journey throughout this whole project. So we mentioned you're the director of the S.T.A.R.S program, so tell us a little bit about the program.
So the S.T.A.R.S program is a program that started in the fall of 2018. It's an after-school mentoring program that targets Hispanic and Latino youth, and it really came about because of a community needs assessment that happened with the growing immigrant community, again, specifically Hispanic and Latina, Latinx community. And what we learned from that needs assessment was that a lot of parents felt excluded from their children's education by the time their children reached middle school. Most of the reasons were language barrier and not understanding the education system. So really the S.T.A.R.S program was a response to that. And it really started off as a small part-time program, and that was trying to meet the social and academic needs of the youth. And over the years, that program has become a full-time program and has developed into so much more. We've tried to create more of a holistic response to the services and program that we offer the youth. Every week, we mentor youth by pairing them with college and graduate students. So if any of you are looking for service or leadership opportunities, I encourage you to sign up to become a S.T.A.R.S mentor. But during that match for an hour and a half to 2 hours per week, they provide academic support, academic enrichment. It is not a tutoring program because we do not require our college or graduate students to be expert tutors in any particular subject, but we do obviously in the application look to see what the students' academic strengths are, the university or college and graduate students, and what the needs are of the youth. We also provide a lot of activities related to career exploration, civic engagement, service learning, because we also want them to know that they have a lot to give back to the community and that there is a lot of need in our community. And oftentimes, because we live in our bubble, we don't really understand. So I do try to incorporate a lot of service learning and civic engagement into our activities. We also have our youth engage in a lot of life skills activities. Sometimes it's a little lacking, especially post-pandemic. And then we've also incorporated parent workshops, monthly parent workshops in Spanish that where we bring in experts in specific fields to talk to the parents and provide accurate information so that they have, the tools to make informed decisions about themselves, about their children. And it's not necessarily only about the education system. And then we also try to partner up with different community partners to provide community events that are targeting the growing diverse immigrant community. So for example, last year, we worked with a local public interest law firm, and we brought in lawyers and paralegals to provide free legal screening. So it was a legal clinic to the growing immigrant and refugee populations. And then we've also been partnering with other community organizations to provide free health a free health fair, which was a screening and vaccination clinic, because we know that as the immigrant communities are growing in our region, especially among the Hispanic and Latino community, there's a growing health disparity for, again, various reasons, language barriers, and also limited access to healthcare coverage. So we learned this through the conversations with our youth and the parents and the broader immigrant community. And we take that information and we say, okay, who can we connect with? And so a lot of times we're talking to Julie, to your office, we're talking to Maria's office, which is the Leahy Clinic here at the University of Scranton, and we're trying to figure out how can we collaborate to meet these growing needs of this change in demographic in our community. So that's the S.T.A.R.S program.
Not used to the microphones. Thank you so much. And I think for the students in the Tapestry program, that is very relevant information, because you will all enter the healthcare profession, and in one way or another will connect with underserved populations and will work to address some of these health disparities. And if you were in our first CBL talk, then you know a little bit about some of that data that was shared at that talk.
Can I just share one more thing?
Please.
Because I forgot to mention this. Because of the Scranton Project story, we are also working, we just formalized a partnership with the Lackawanna Historical Society, and we're going to be running a summer camp for the youth that we work with, and we're going to be doing genealogy workshops with the kids, and we're going to be doing another workshop on the importance of storytelling and documenting their stories, and art, and the Lackawanna Historical Society is going to offer the youth and the families who would like to participate to archive these stories as well for future generations to see, and maybe their descendants. So again, that's all because of our participation with the Scranton Stories. So thank you.
So we have one more question, and then we're going to have about probably 15 minutes where we can take questions from the audience. So please, if you have a question for Jenny, keep it in mind. So just to kind of bring it to a close, what are the challenges that you still see facing Hispanic and Latinx immigrants? And then what do you think the community more widely might do to foster a greater sense of welcome and belonging?
So the main challenge that I continuously see is the language barrier. So yes, we have made significant progress in our region, especially for the Spanish-speaking community, but there is still so much work to be done, not only for the Hispanic and Latinx community, but also the other immigrant communities that speak other languages. And the language barrier can have a very detrimental impact on the future of the youth and the families. And I see that in our program because I hear about parents and youth missing out on educational opportunities and resources because by the time they deciphered the information and really understood what those opportunities were about, sometimes it's too late. And it's really unfair, I think, because we do, as a society, as a community, have to do a better job in helping these communities have better access to these services. The language barrier, obviously, also, another, going back to the education system, oftentimes there's this misconception that many immigrant parents or Hispanic families don't want to be a part of their children's education. It's not that. It's that when, you know, parents are being invited to like PTA meetings or school board meetings, why am I going to show up to a place where I'm going to sit there and I don't understand what they're saying? And, you know, schools aren't doing, or administrators, for whatever reason, you know, maybe it's budget issues, but there isn't really an effort being put to make sure that these parents are being actively involved in their children's education. And obviously that can have a huge detrimental effect in their children's education. And we see that in other institutions and systems, whether it's healthcare, it's the criminal justice system, it's the judicial system. So the language barrier really, really can have a detrimental impact on a family. The other challenge that I see,
the language barrier, because sometimes there's a misconception that it's only more recent immigrants who had these language barriers, and that almost like somehow the immigrants of the past just came here and spoke English right away. And there's a pastor at the Southside Parish who's spoken very eloquently about how, in fact, you know, he's a white Scrantonian, but when his grandmother came, she spoke Polish, and that church had Polish services. And so that's a part of Scranton's story, that in the past, those immigrant communities did speak other languages, and they did accommodate, and they did have churches that spoke those languages. And so it always bothers me as a white American who only speaks one language when I sense sometimes in Scranton, I think we have done a lot better, resistance sometimes to offering, whether it be Spanish, whether it be Swahili for the Congolese community, whether it be Nepali, different languages for all the different communities. That was something that was done in the past. And if it wasn't done, it's not a good thing. We want to be accommodating, and we want to give people time, because it's very difficult to learn a second language. And again, I only speak one, so how could I judge, you know? But I just wanted to remind that, because I always think that's an important thing, is to think back. And there are many Scrantonians who appreciate that. I was giving an example of Monsignor Quinn, who's remembering that. And some of the Catholic parishes now absolutely have the services in Spanish, as they should, as they did in the past, and as they continue to accommodate the different communities.
Thank you for sharing that. The other challenge I will mention that continuously comes up in the work that I do is just parents not understanding how to navigate institutions and systems overall, not understanding their rights, their civil rights. And so because of that, oftentimes these adults and even children are more at risk of being vulnerable to marginalizations. And we see that in the workforce. We unfortunately see that in the education system, and it's very, very frustrating for me because you would think that a phone call to a school will just, fix some of these things, and it's much more complex than that. So I think that one of the things that we have tried as a program and at a personal level that I've been trying to do is use this program, the S.T.A.R.S program, to collaborate with community partners and educational institutions, community organizations, government offices, to work together and to respond to these issues. So I mentioned the parent workshops. Again, I try to connect with people in the community through networking to bring these experts in, because I don't have all the answers and I don't know all the answers to their questions and their challenges. But to come in and talk to these parents in their native language, and if the expert doesn't speak Spanish, then I will, interpret. But we've had lawyers come in and talk to people about their children's educational rights and their rights as parents when dealing with the education system. We've had lawyers come in and talk to the families about the importance of estate planning, so powers of attorneys, wills, and testaments. These are things that, I wasn't even aware of. Because these are things that we're not really talking about in this country. How do you prep for your future when you don't understand what the laws are in this country? We've had people from insurance companies and talk to them about the importance of
insurances and what to look for and what to ask for, and the protections that home, car, rental, life, disability insurances offers not only to the individual but the families. We've had people come in from community organizations and talk about the home ownership process and generational wealth and what that means for their future descendants, and about opportunities that the city of Scranton has to offer, like the first-time home buyers programs. So we do try to, again, through networking, connect and build a bridge between this new group of community members that have been moving here and that see this place as the future of their families, and connecting them to the amazing things that are happening in the community. So I think that's what we can continue doing, is that at a individual and professional level, as a community, we continue networking, we continue, just engaging in a very basic human thing, which is conversation and dialogue, learning about other people's experiences, networking, pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones. There's many times that I say, I wonder what that new mom and pop shop is about, and where it's so easy to just drive past these places because, it's maybe an ethnic grocery store that, I'm probably not going to buy anything, but it doesn't take much to take 5 minutes of your day and go in and just, talk to the cashier and say, so what do you guys sell here? Or what kind of, or going to, a new restaurant and talking to, the restaurant owners or the chef. Or if you're religious, maybe taking one Sunday instead of going to your regular service or mass, finding out what mass or service is being offered in other languages, or, outside of maybe within your religion or outside of your religion. And I think that it will be a really beautiful experience, and it brings a lot of awareness to ourselves. And at the end of all of that, I think what we end up learning through these conversations is that most people want the same thing that we want, which is, a sense of belonging, a safe community, better education systems, good paying jobs. So I think that's probably the best way that we can continue creating an inclusive environment, a welcoming environment, and continue pushing for really a sense of belonging to diverse communities that move to this area. And it creates a healthy community for everyone. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you. So we have a few minutes. We'd love to get you all in the conversation. So any questions that you have for Jenny about her story, about the Scranton Stories project, and about the work that she does with the S.T.A.R.S program? Don't be shy.
It's a lot to process.
First of all, thank you for sharing your story. That's so beautiful. We really appreciate it. So I know you talked about gaining some higher education, going to grad school. What did you study, and what kind of helped you pursue this journey as an advocate in your community, and what kind of things can maybe we participate in that'll kind of help us be able to do that as well?
So your first question was, what was my major? What did I go to school for? So undergrad, I was a poli-sci major with a focus on Latin American studies. And then in graduate school, I got my master's in social work. What was your second question? You said, what can we do to... So honestly, what I would suggest is going, first of all, I don't know if you're from the area or not, but wherever you live, or you plan on working, or if it's right now just here in Scranton temporarily, is connecting with any organization that's really a community grassroots organization, nonprofit organizations. There's a ton over here, and depending on what you're interested in, like if you're interested in working with the homeless population, there's multiple organizations like Keystone Mission or Community Intervention Center that is focusing on those, on working with this population. If you're looking to learn more about the immigrant community and the refugee populations, Catholic Social Services, there are different organizations that have a focus on different groups, because again, one organization can't do it all. So I would say maybe starting off by volunteering, I don't know, even if it was 2 hours or 1 hour once a month. And that's exactly what I'm doing with the Lackawanna Historical Society right now. Because of this project, because I thought, wow, I really need to understand our local history better, because this is where I grew up. This is where I'm raising my daughter. So because of this, I just reached out to the Lackawanna Historical Society and I said, hey, I want to volunteer. Like, what do you see there is a need for? And she just said, there's no archives or documentation that's focusing on the Hispanic community growing in this area for the last 3 or 4 decades. Would you want to help us with that? So I go once a month and I help them with that. And because of all of that, I networked and made connections. And now here we applied for a grant that we're hoping that we get to make, our summer camp possible, that focuses on a little bit of the humanities and storytelling and archiving, and helping our children that we're working with explore genealogy and why that's important. So I would just say that, honestly, because that's what I did.
Question? Yes. And obviously, many of you are going to do CBL in your advanced years. A lot of you are freshmen, and so hopefully you'll get a chance to try out different nonprofits. But Jenny did say the S.T.A.R.S program is an opportunity for you all to be after-school mentors. So think about that for the future semesters.
What was it like seeing your brother again after so long? Because I'm sure that's a common experience of people who come here and kind of have to separate from their families.
So it was a weird experience because it was the first time meeting him. I was almost 10 years old when I met my brother. And so he didn't really know us. And I just remember actually being at I think it was like Newark or John F. Kennedy Airport. My mother had to explain to him how we were dressed, essentially what we looked like. There were no cell phones when he came, and at least we didn't own any cell phones. And just trying to describe to him, like, this is what we're gonna be wearing. And it was beautiful, but it was weird because I was growing up with my younger brothers. And so when we finally, well, for my mom, it was reuniting with him. For us, it was like we're being introduced to this stranger, essentially. It felt weird, and there was also a almost 10-year difference in age. Again, I was 10, he was almost about to be 20, he was 19. So you can only imagine, like the I don't want to say it was weird, but it was at the same time. It was just weird because there's this adult man who's now living in our house, who we have to kind of figure out, like, what is he like? What does he not like? What do we like about him? It was beautiful, but it was weird. And I think it also brought out, a lot of sadness in my mom because, it hit her, and I could see it in her face that, I left a child, and because of the immigration laws and because of something so catastrophic that was happening in El Salvador, she had to leave, and she couldn't reunite with him because of the immigration laws here. So I don't know. It was a little bit, I guess. It was beautiful and it was weird. I don't know how else to explain it, but it was our first time meeting him. So when I met him, and obviously our relationship grew with time, but then a few years later, or a few months later, you started to see, that there were certain disconnections and challenges, things that a parent would probably see with their child at 10, 11, 12 years old, 13, those teenage years. Here she is experiencing these challenges with a almost 20-year-old because she missed so much of his childhood. So yeah, that was an interesting experience.
Last question. We have time for one more question. Oh.
maybe we have students from many different states, so they probably don't know that our city is getting the population is being growing in different ways, and we are getting more diverse. What do you think? How you would explain to them like the benefits of becoming diverse and so culturally, in terms of cultural diversity and sensibility to the differences between cultures? Like, what do you think that the benefits would be having a very diverse community around us?
You get to live a very diverse experience because every culture, every community brings its own, I don't know, customs and traditions, and so you go to places like New York, anywhere you walk to, you can find different ethnic foods and restaurants, and that's a beautiful thing. And I mean, for such a long time, we didn't have access to that in this community. And now, you go to different parts of the city of Scranton, and almost in every neighborhood, you'll see that there are different, types of food that is available. You're also, I think it's a good experience because we get to learn about different experiences, different people's lived experiences. And I think it gives you a different perspective on life. And just because that's not my experience doesn't mean that these challenges or that these opportunities don't exist, So, I mean, there's just a ton of reasons why it's a good thing that, there is a change, there is a growing demographic change, I guess, because with that, we're bringing in, new customs, and our culture, our local culture and heritage is changing, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I mean, that's exactly what's supposed to happen. So I don't know. There's many benefits to it.
Yes, and I just wanted to underscore too that what is it, 15% of the city's population, we were just talking about that before, is now Hispanic, Latinx, and the communities of color in Scranton is about 25% to 30%. And again, going back to the Scranton Stories project, sometimes there's a misconception that Scranton is not diverse, and that's just not true. But it is partly because of how Scranton's sort of story or how what its reputation is, which we've tried to dispel through this project and through the stories of Jenny and her mom. And again, all the stories, I think when you put them all together, you get a mosaic of Scranton, which is the authentic story of Scranton, which we've tried to share. So I want to thank Jenny again and her mom, Anna, who wasn't here tonight, but we're so grateful for her. And I wanted to give you just a couple of events that are coming up. On March 21st, when you get back from spring break, there's a program on Israel-Palestine. So if you're interested in that issue, which is very much in the news, that's going to be March 21st at 5 o'clock. March 17th, which you may not be back for, but the 17th and the 24th, there's Ukrainian Easter egg workshops, which Dr. Amelia Randich, she's kind of an expert on that. They're $25 even for students, but the money goes to support humanitarian aid in Ukraine because, of course, that war is in its third year, which is very sad. And then if you're in the Heritage Room this semester, you can see all of the different Scranton Story photos. So you saw a beautiful photo of Jenny and Anna. All 33 of them are on display. So if you're studying this semester in the Heritage Room, which is the 5th floor of the library, take a little walk around and you'll see some of the other interviews. And then on April 4th, we're having a reception with many of the interviewees will be present. So you could come and join us for that. And then again, April 18th is the 3rd CBL talk. So just a few other events coming up. And I think that concludes our program. So thank you all for coming, and thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.